The Allen Line Company appreciates all of the dedicated carriers it takes to move loads across the U.S. Stay safe.
OOIDA, representing America's truckers since 1973, presents Landline Now with your host, Mark Redding.
The Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance held a workshop recently. OOIDA's Lewie Pugh, Doug Morris, and Paul Torlina were there and will break down what was discussed and why it matters to you. Illinois has a law that lifted any cap on pain and suffering damages that can lead to nuclear verdicts, and that got the attention of State Representative Ryan Spain of Peoria. We'll hear from him about his bill designed to correct that situation. And finally, normal and stable are two words being used to describe the current market conditions. We speak with Brent Hutto of Truckstop about the numbers and the top regions and lanes from last week. But first, the news with Scott Thompson.
Thanks, Mark. Our top story today, truck tonnage was down for a 13th straight month in March. That's according to the American Trucking Association's For Hire Truck Tonnage Index. The report found that tonnage in March dipped 2% compared to February and was down 1% compared to a year earlier. Down, yes, but also the second smallest decrease over the last 13 months. In a news release, ATA Chief Economist Bob Costello said that the numbers suggest that truck freight volumes remain lackluster and that it's clear the truck freight recession continued throughout the first quarter. Meanwhile, ACT Research continues to track some positive signs as we inch toward the second half of the year. In the latest release of their freight and transportation forecast, ACT Research's Vice President and Senior Analyst Tim Denoyer wrote that seasonality remains loose and demand soft, but he also said spot market dynamics have begun to shift since the end of operations at Yellow last summer. And while that's been a game changer, as he put it, for less than truckload rates, and the truckload market is still loose enough for rates to be largely unaffected, ACT believes the impact will continue growing over time along seasonal patterns. That sentiment is backed up by what Truckstop is seeing. Brent Hutto says there is plenty of freight in the spot market for small carriers.
But I say hold on loosely to that because it's kind of ebbing back and forth because rates aren't great, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But the current market conditions are, we've seen some signs where you had more freight in the market over the last 7 to 8 weeks, which in the spot market actually means that that's a good trend. That means that the market has hit its bottom and it's beginning to move back out because freight volumes have been above normal, which is always a wonderful thing. I'll always look at 5-year averages because when you're looking at any indexed data of any kind of data, you want to make sure you look over the averages, not like what's going on today, because in the spot market, you never know. It kind of goes up and down. But it kind of keeps moving around. So the pressure or the way it feels to everybody is that it's above normal as far as the freight volumes are concerned. But rates are still a little bit of a challenge, and certainly that's part of inflation and everything else. And then fuel prices. Fuel prices have been modulating back and forth. It did go below $4 for the first time in quite a while, which is good. Now, that doesn't have an effect till a few weeks down the road, but it's good that the fuel may be coming back down a bit.
Hutto says spot freight volume is down 5% week over week, but that is still up 8% over a 5-year average. Mississippi has a new law on the books that protects commercial drivers from predatory towing. The new law signed by Mississippi Governor Tate Reeves includes safeguards during non-consensual tows and regulates how much truckers can be charged for towing services. It also calls for the formation of a commercial vehicle towing advisory committee made up of law enforcement and tow and trucking industry stakeholders. They'll work together to establish statewide maximum towing and storage rates for non-consensual tows that will be reviewed each year. The law also guarantees truckers the right to request a specific tow company, requires that tow services document the condition of the vehicle and the reason for the tow prior to towing, and, among other things, states that tow and recovery companies cannot use immobilization devices like a boot unless directed by law enforcement. The new Mississippi law takes effect on July 1st. Interstate 275 in Tampa, Florida is home to 2 new toll roads and express lanes. The Gateway Expressway, officially opening to traffic Friday, provides direct connections between I-275 and U.S. Highway 19 and the Bayside Bridge and I-275. All tolls will be collected electronically through the SunPass prepaid toll program. The opening is a culmination of 6 years of construction on the $600 million project. A truck driver was shot and killed on Interstate 20 in Louisiana Tuesday morning in a possible road rage incident. The Caddo Parish Sheriff's Office says it happened near the Love's truck stop in Greenwood. They say the trucker and the driver of an SUV were apparently involved in some sort of argument on an on-ramp. Both drivers got out of their vehicles, at which time the driver of the SUV fired shots at the truck driver, who then tried to run away. The suspect followed him and shot the trucker in the head. Authorities likened it to an execution. The search for the shooter continues. Deputies are looking for a dark-colored Acura SUV. KSLA reports that police are getting dash cam video from truck drivers who were in the area at the time of the shooting. The owner of multiple motor carriers in Georgia has pleaded guilty to 2 federal charges. Roderick Billingsley, indicted in February, admitted to orchestrating a scheme to defraud the Small Business Administration by using false statements and false pretenses to get more than $560,000 in CARES Act money. That, you might remember, is the stimulus measure that pumped $2.2 trillion into the economy in response to the pandemic. Billingsley also admitted to reincarnating numerous motor carriers to bypass federal regulations and laws. The California Highway Patrol is reminding truck drivers once again about the split speed limit for commercial motor vehicles in the state. The CHP office in Redding posted information about a recent stop to social media, during which they cited a truck driver for going 15 miles an hour over the 55-mile-per-hour speed limit. The office said the post was in response to questions about enforcement, and although deputies admitted they can't catch every speeder, they do their best to enforce the law when and where they can. The Colorado Department of Transportation has shut down a bridge in the central part of the state after cracking was found. We're talking about the Blue Mesa Bridge on U.S. Highway 50 to the west of Gunnison. Officials closed the bridge down on April 18th after an inspection turned up the problem. There is no timeline for repairs, so in the meantime, detours are in place, and they are lengthy ones. The Colorado DOT said the closure will create a significant detour for commuters between Montrose and Gunnison. The northern detour route, Interstate 70, totals more than 350 miles and requires about 6 extra hours of travel time. The one to the south, US 160, is not much better, about 330 miles, and requires nearly 7 hours of extra travel time. Love's Travel Stops is offering up discounts in advance of the Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance's International Road Check event next month. During the month of May, Love's and Speedco locations are cutting the price of a Department of Transportation inspection in half. They're also discounting Yokohama tires. International Road Check takes place over 3 days starting May 14th across North America. Certified law enforcement personnel will be out in force, conducting routine North American Standard Level 1 inspections at weigh and inspection stations, temporary sites, and mobile patrols. Each year, International Road Check places a special emphasis on a category of violations. This year, there will be 2 focus areas: tractor protection systems and alcohol and controlled substance possession. CVSA says the possession and use of controlled substances and alcohol remains a significant concern for motor carriers, drivers, and the general public. And finally, congratulations to Tommy Hinton. The truck driver is $225,000 richer after getting lucky on a scratch-off in Kentucky. Tri-State homepage reports he bought the ticket at a Pilot Travel Center in Madisonville and scratched it off right then and there. The cashier was the first to notice something was up because she asked if Hinton needed an ambulance. He said no and then showed her the ticket, at which time Hinton said the clerk's eyes popped out and were as big as saucers. After taxes, Hinton will collect a total of $162,000, money he plans to pay off bills with, complete some renovations, and donate to his church. That's Landline Now News for today. I'm Scott Thompson.
Thanks, Scott. Congratulations to Stanley B. Lippert of Hillsboro, Illinois. He's received the OOIDA Safe Driving Award for 50 years of safe, accident-free driving. That's the equivalent of a car driver going 375 years without causing a single accident. Next, Scott Thompson covers the recent CVSA meeting and what it means with Lewie Pugh, Doug Morris, and Paul Torlina of OOIDA. I'll discuss an effort to stop nuclear verdicts in Illinois with State Representative Ryan Spain of Peoria, and Ashley Blackford gets the latest on the spot market from Brent Hutto of Truckstop. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
Penske owns and operates some of the best-maintained vehicles on the planet. Our used trucks come with a 5-year maintenance report and pre-sale inspection. So if you're in the market for a top-quality pre-owned truck, look no further. Search our inventory today at PenskeUsedTrucks.com.
Help control your toll costs and eliminate tolling headaches with Prepass Tolls. Prepass Tolls means toll volume discounts. Just one invoice for all tolls and fewer violations. Call 877-878-5970 or go to prepass.com.
Ready to make more money? Use a better load board. For a limited time, get 50% off Truckstop Load Board Pro. Just go to truckstop.com/go and enter promo code READY2024 when you purchase Load Board Pro.
Landline Now, welcome back. The Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance recently held a workshop in Louisville, Kentucky, bringing together government officials, law enforcement, and industry stakeholders to talk about roadway safety. But what really goes on at a CVSA workshop, and why should you care? Doug Morris, Lewie Pugh, and Paul Torlina are about to tell us. All three went to the latest workshop in mid-April, and now they're here in Studio A. Gentlemen, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Good to be here.
It's a fantastic time I have when I'm on your show.
And a fantastic time you had at the CVSA workshop as well, I'm sure. I'm going to start with just kind of a basic question here that I basically posed there at the top. What does go on at a CVSA workshop? I know they've got a number of meetings throughout the year. What does it look like? What goes on, generally speaking?
Well, generally, it's the coalition of both industry, law enforcement, federal regulators, and they all get together and basically talk about the rules and regulations of Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration and the FMCSRs, as well as the out-of-service criteria, and to decide whether or not there should be adjustments to out-of-service criteria or the policies of the states enforcing commercial vehicle laws.
So all very important stuff. The question being, and I think I know the answer to this, but I'll ask it anyway, why attend? What do you at OOIDA get out of it? And maybe more importantly, what do the other people that are there get out of you attending? I'm talking law enforcement, I'm talking those government officials. That conversation or those conversations that take place probably are pretty important, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, the main reason we attend is because, like Doug said, these are the people who, help with the FMCSRs, uniform and inspections, but yet set the out-of-service criteria. We can agree on some of that stuff, and some of the stuff maybe not so much. The important thing to remember, I know there's a lot of people who complain and argue, and there shouldn't be a CVSA and all that kind of stuff. And, we can debate that another day. The important thing, the reason that we go, and the important thing to remember is that's the body that's in place. That's who's in place. That's who sets the rules right now. That's who sets the regulations right now. So if you want to be a part of that conversation, you have to go be a part of it. I mean, it's easy to stand around and complain and say we shouldn't be doing this stuff. And I get that. I understand where you're coming from. But at the end of the day, if you want to make a difference, you got to be a part of it. That's why we do a lot of things we do at OOIDA and are part of it. But yeah, I mean, an important reason for us to be there is because there's not a lot of people there with small trucking companies there. It's mainly as far as from industry. It's usually vendors, people trying to sell the next latest, greatest thing, along with big trucking companies, big fleets, stuff like that. And so we are there as a representative of the 1 and 2 trucks and small fleets and then drivers, and it's how they do it on that. So, and it gives us an opportunity when they're doing something to say, hey, you're putting a disadvantage to a small business carrier, you're putting an advantage to a big motor carrier, or this is something that just won't work. Our guys can't do it. How do you expect them to comply with this? Just different stuff like that all the time.
And I imagine that's something that they appreciate, at least I hope they appreciate it, that they're getting that point of view that they may not otherwise be thinking about. Do you get feedback like that from the folks that you talk to there? Again, appreciating what you're bringing to the table?
Yeah, I learned that firsthand this time around. This was my second time going to CVSA. The first time I kind of tried to be more ears than mouth. This time I did speak up in one of our sessions about something that we felt was disfavorable or unfavorable to small truckers. And I was the only one in the room speaking, but after the committee adjourned, I had a couple people come up to me and say, hey, thanks for speaking up. I agree with you, which that's great to hear. And it's a bit validating, but at the same time, it's very frustrating because you're thinking to yourself, well, where the heck were you when it was time to speak up and you sat there silently? So I've kind of learned just from that very experience, it's important for us to be there because we are not afraid to voice that in the room and get that out there to the people that we feel need to hear it.
Can you talk about what that issue was? And what
Probably
your objection was?
not, but
Okay.
the gist of it was that we felt that what was being discussed was going to put small businesses at a disadvantage compared to large fleets, and the people who agreed with us were in a similar position but just weren't willing to speak. Now, maybe they're afraid to speak because they feel like that would get their business targeted, or law enforcement may somehow look on them disfavorably. But for whatever the reason, OOIDA doesn't have that concern, and so we can go in there and speak what needs to be spoken and rattle some cages as needed, I guess is probably the best way to say it.
Well, and let's talk about that too, about rattling cages, because obviously OOIDA's involvement in these workshops goes back a number of years. I'm not even sure how many, but quite a while. Are there examples of these conversations leading to change? Maybe CVSA was considering something and based on OOIDA's input decided not to go ahead with it, or something in that vein. Or, success stories, essentially. What can you tell us about some of those?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. It gets tabled or dies right away because of stuff that we say. Unfortunately, there's things that get through no matter how hard we fight pushback. But there's been a lot of stuff. I mean, I remember a few years ago, they wanted to come up with a whole nother out-of-service rule for the DEF fluid. And I'm like, or should it just follow the other leaking? Should it fall under criteria of all leaks, or but somebody wanted to make their own
special category
DEF rule of leaks. And it's like, why would you do that? And they're like, wow, this is hazardous. And they're coming up with all these things. And I'm like, no, it's not. I said, I know, a guy with a truck and his tank he got that stuff put in the wrong tank and had to clean everything. It's not going to hurt you like that. And so it just went back under leaks. And there's been stuff they floated. Last meeting, there was something about frac sand in the boxes, and they were arguing about that. And I had experience, and so I pulled that frac sand. I'm like, that's not how that works at all, and explained to them how the thing really works.
Right.
And somebody from enforcement had submitted this and didn't know how it worked. And, of course, we don't know what we don't know either. But the good thing was I was able to explain that, and it just died immediately. And there's a lot of stuff like that dies.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing, because either us or, like in vehicle, the committee I'm on, there's a lot of people. There's people there from Meritor and Bendix and just all Web Wheel and different stuff like that too. So sometimes the vendors can say, hey, this isn't right or isn't correct. It's kind of funny sometimes because some of the stuff they show, I think that probably should be out of service, but a vendor will say, no, it still works. Even though it looks like that condition, it can still work effectively.
Yeah.
And so they let it die.
Well, even going back how many years, the Minnesota State Patrol, right? The fatigue
the
inspection
Minnesota fatigue
issue.
program. A lot of states were thinking about bringing that on board with their enforcement programs, and obviously we fought tooth and nail at the committee meetings, and they just didn't listen to us. So we wound up suing them, Minnesota winning, and then the other states just dropped it all together.
Yeah. Looking at kind of the issues that are swirling around right now, excuse me, the topics there at CVSA this time around, what kind of caught your eye? What types of things should we be thinking about or looking at right now that CVSA may be considering?
Well, one thing is the personal conveyance. That we've been fighting this issue for a number of years at CVSA. CVSA has actually petitioned FMCSA to put a mileage on personal conveyance. They were denied those petitions. They are going to petition FMCSA again, but it's a different avenue. They were saying, hey, we want actual clear definition of personal conveyance and guidance, but there's not going to be, by understanding, a mileage to it or anything like that. I think they're going to be more lenient as to personal conveyance. Our example to them was if we're done, a driver's not under dispatch, he's done his load and wants to go home, why isn't that personal conveyance? And they're saying, well, they're going back to the terminal. And well, no, he's going back to home. But it's okay for that driver to get in his truck and drive to California and go party on the beach that weekend or what have you. And they say, well, it's different. It's that is personal conveyance. He's not going back to his terminal or her terminal. And when they started thinking about it, they realized that we're right on this issue. And I think you'll see the definition possibly come from FMCSA, but personal conveyance is just that, personal conveyance.
Lewie, Paul, what else caught your eye?
Well, a couple things. They brought up an air brake and then back in against vehicle that some states or a guy, like say your glad hand gets pulled out on your service line, and they got inspected, and then they not only did they write him for that, but they wrote him for every brake not working, everything in the brakes on every axle in the trailer. None of it worked. Well, no, it didn't work because there was no air.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So anyway, so they were arguing back and forth for a little while about because if it's an electric plug that pulls out, you get that violation. Right. But if you plug in the electric, they allow you to plug in the electric plug then before they check the rest of the lights. You're still getting the out of service or whatever for the light thing not being, but it's just that plug. You don't get all these other things. They don't stack all this stuff.
Right.
So that was whether they should stack it with the air brakes, allow you the same thing for a glad hand, and they finally kind of came to a consensus as that what they should do, which makes sense. A guy can make a sharp turn, that thing can pop out once in a while.
Sure.
So that was a big argument for a while, but went out. And a couple other things was like if you have a curtain side trailer, some of the curtain sides they have a weight rating for securement, actually a securement weight rating, and they decided that they're not going to count that at all. That if you're using a curtain side, you still have to have your load strapped or whatever inside correctly. And it's because if the tarp's torn, if the tarp gets to a certain age, does that lessen the strength of it and the working load limit or how? So that was a thing that came out. And again, these right now are not law. These are things that were suggested to move from committee to for the board to vote on, the executive board. And then another thing was if you pull container chassis, if one of your container locks break, you can use a chain or a cable to secure the container to the chassis, but only temporary do you take it, get fixed. You just can't continue to run around with like that every day. So if something would happen, you can put a chain or a cable over it, no nylon straps or anything like that. It's got to be a wire rope or a chain, and you can deliver the container and then go get your container lock fixed correctly. Those were really the biggest things that came out of vehicle. And I was also setting training. There's really nothing there for trucking to worry about. It was mainly housekeeping for cops and how they get trained.
Right. We were talking a little bit before this. Speed limiters, that also came up, I think, right, during the workshop here. What can you tell us about that?
It was brought up because they always get reports in the committees from FMCSA and National Highway and a couple other groups, but it was brought up that there will probably be, as far as on the FMCSA side, there probably won't be any ruling or anything come out on speed limiters till this year. Yeah. Which probably makes sense since they don't have an administrator and it's an election year, and we're probably not going to get an administrator till next year. So, yeah.
But the process is still going on. The rulemaking process is still going on. We just won't have a rule come out until next year sometime.
Yeah. But that doesn't mean to not be reaching out to your lawmakers.
Don't let up. Yeah,
correct.
Don't let up. Full throttle. I mean, this just buys us more time to get people on Capitol Hill or behind the Drive Act and to get the Drive Act across the finish line. So get on fighting for truckers and reach out to your lawmaker.
And to that point, too, I think it's important that, most people listening are not going to go to one of these workshops. They're not going to participate in this process necessarily. But if they see something out there, if they have a problem, they should absolutely reach out to all of you here at OOIDA.
Just call compliance. If you're seeing an enforcement issue, because that's another thing at CVSA. If there's like some jurisdiction that's not inspecting something rightly, or there's a problem, or it's a train issue, they want to know. So yeah, if you're receiving tickets or parking or something like you don't think you should be, car compliance department. If we see a trend, we don't have any problem reaching out and trying to get that problem solved.
Yeah, exactly. You'll be the go-between and make sure that CVSA is aware of what's going on. We got to leave it there for now, but Paul, Doug, Louie, thanks to all three of you for stopping by and taking us behind the scenes. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And that's our cue to take a quick break, but don't go anywhere. We've got more Landline Now right after this.
Are you tired of the IRS following you around like a dark cloud? Call 888-557-4020 and get your life back.
Firestone tires are for more of everything. with more durability for more miles and more confidence in your fleet. Firestone's tested tires help fleets save with value where it matters most. Find your local Firestone dealer today at firestonetire.com/dealer.
When it's time to overhaul your truck engine, help protect it by insisting on a genuine Vibratech TVD crankshaft damper. Heavy duty, absolute premium quality, and they're made right here in the USA. Find a dealer at vibratechtvd.com. It's tested and proven. Burn 2.1% less fuel when you balance all wheel ends with Centromatic. Call 800-523-8473 to get the OOIDA discount.
A trend has been developing over several states, one that could have serious consequences or benefit to small business truckers. You're listening to Landline Now, and I'm your host, Mark Reddig. Welcome back to the program. It involves pain and suffering damages in court cases. Some states are looking to limit those damages in court cases, which can reach into the millions of dollars, the so-called nuclear verdicts. In the state of Illinois, a bill previously passed into law lifted any cap on those damages, and that got the attention of State Representative Ryan Spain of Peoria. He has introduced a bill titled HB 4992, which would cap those damages. I spoke recently with Representative Spain about the issue, his bill, and how it would address the situation. Well, Representative Spain, this starts with a relatively new law in Illinois. Previously, HB 0219, which was the Wrongful Death Act. And I'm wondering, before we get to your bill that kind of deals with that topic, can you explain what that bill, 0219, did in relation to pain and suffering damages there in Illinois?
You know, it really is doubling down on a problem within Illinois that we have created great allowances for damages, and the effect of those allowances creates major problems for liability for our businesses. And so, Illinois has long been a state where the litigation that takes place has been all-consuming, and we have been a state synonymous with venue shopping and large awards for plaintiffs, and all of it continues to be a problem. And when you see, further opportunities offered by our legislature, it creates a lot of concern for me. Now, my legislative district borders the state of Iowa. And I think a lot about the economic competitiveness between our two states. And so we've got to start actually working back and bringing some fairness and balance into our approach for damages and liability and lawsuits.
So let's go ahead and talk about your bill here that would address this situation, HB 4992. And I'm wondering if we can start with what the bill would do if passed. How would it change the situation?
So this is really part of a state-by-state effort to bring some limit to damages for our trucking companies. And so I have set that cap on damages within this legislation at $2 million. And I think that's a perfectly reasonable place to be. The state of Wisconsin has currently been considering a cap of $1 million in damages. In fact, their legislature passed the bill, and I think the governor has vetoed it, and they're still working through on what the right number might be. In the state of Iowa, that cap is $5 million. And so, I think that establishing a damage cap is something that's very important, because when businesses are making decisions about where they will set up shop and where the investments will take place, the risk calculation is very significant based on some of these economic liabilities.
I'm curious, you mentioned what the other states have in terms of their limits. Wisconsin looking at 1 million, and then you mentioned Iowa at 5 million. How did you arrive at the $2 million figure? I mean, obviously you were thinking about that. It wasn't just an arbitrary choice. What kind of went into the decision to arrive at that figure?
Yeah, the 2 million to me is a common sense place to start. Understanding that it may be subject to negotiation, and the distance between $2 million and no caps at all is very significant. It's infinite. It's the difference between having your company survive or not. And so I think that we have to start somewhere. I, quite frankly, be perfectly happy with pursuing a Wisconsin cap of $1 million, but I'm also not ignorant to the strength of plaintiffs' attorneys in the state of Illinois and what our trial bar advocacy looks like. And so I think that these are appropriate damage caps based on the economic competitiveness that we need to be sensitive to here in the Midwest.
The main interest that our audience has in this issue is the effect on the trucking industry, because of course our program's listeners are truck drivers, and many of whom own their own small trucking operations. What part did the trucking industry play in your decision to pursue this issue?
Yeah, I'm very happy to work with our trucking associations here in Illinois and our Midwest Trucking Association. I mean, these are great advocacy leaders, and they are the advocates that can help educate and make me aware of other actions taking place in different states. Look, I'd love to have federal action on this topic where we could have a uniform playing field across the nation, but I don't think we're going to get that. And so as a result, I rely on our Illinois and Midwest trucking leaders to help raise awareness and make recommendations. And again, the economic competitiveness is what I see on the line. Our trucking companies, our owner operators need to be in a place where their business, these important, vital small business and logistics operations can be successful. Illinois has the tremendous advantage of being in the center of everything. And being the Midwest logistics hub is something that's really important. But it's something we shouldn't take for granted either. And decisions about where companies are located and incorporated are very important. And it's really easy for, if someone in my area wants to set up their trucking business, are they going to do it in the state of Iowa, where there's a cap on damages that they can understand and plan for, or in Illinois, where there's no cap and it could be a catastrophic loss of your business as a result? So that's what matters to me on this topic.
Have you actually talked with individual truck drivers or owner operators or people that own some of these smaller operations in your district about this issue?
Yeah, we have. Very enthusiastic. People understand that it's important. A lot of thank yous. They know that it's going to be a tough road in the state of Illinois, and this may be a long process, but they're very enthusiastic and supportive. I have in my hometown, which is Peoria, Illinois, we have a large trucking convention every February. And so it was a really good opportunity to talk to a lot of our owner operators, business leaders, and appreciate their support and guidance on this.
Can you tell us a little bit about some of the things some of these individuals said to you? What kind of points did they bring up on this issue in particular?
It's a real worry about the uneasiness in the industry and this position of vulnerability that they're placed in now in the state of Illinois. And if you have a company that is within close proximity to the border, and Illinois is bordered by many states. I mean, these owners are looking at their options. I mean, they are not idle threats. They're really understanding, boy, does it continue to make sense for my presence to be located in the state of Illinois? And I understand that. And I think as legislators, we're in the economic development and job preservation business. And when you take a business climate that we have in Illinois, which is fraught with a lot of difficulties and challenges to begin with, an overall high tax burden, a lot of regulatory agencies and oversight, and a large state bureaucracy, and then you add this very significant, unlimited liability. That's an important business calculation, and so. I get it, and I'm hearing everyone loud and clear, and look forward to continuing this conversation because we do need to bring some balance to the state of Illinois, or we will lose our ability to retain businesses here.
In talking about other businesses, of course, our interest is trucking, but does this bill affect other industries outside of trucking if passed, or is it specific just to the one industry?
This is specific to trucking, and I think in Illinois, we need to take one piece at a time. One bit of forward movement is very meaningful. Of course, we have lots of liability challenges with all sorts of different businesses as well. And those are also concerning, when we're looking at how do we retain manufacturing in the state of Illinois. Well, there's a lot of liability issues for employees and machinery and things that happen in that industry. So this work is not done, but I understand, having been in the legislature for a few years, that universal solutions that I may be well-intended and I might have some amount of interest also stand very little chance of becoming reality and being successfully passed.
I'm curious if you've had a hearing on this bill. Has that taken place? And I'm curious about the reaction of other lawmakers, or maybe what they said during a hearing or have said to you individually about this bill.
We haven't had a hearing yet, but I hope that we can. I think it's an important topic. I think it's worthy of calling for the bill. We have lots of interest from other legislators as sponsors for the bill, but they'd like to see that it's moving first. Realistically, this isn't a bill that is able to advance at this point in our legislative session right now. We're going through on the House floor right now, just outside my door, our deadline for passage of bills that have already all advanced out of committee. So this one came in a little bit later, but this is going to be a long and ongoing conversation. And when we get to the point of having hearings, that's when we'll be able to bring forward our owner-operators and witness testimony. And I think it'll be an important discussion.
Okay. Well, Representative Spain, that's all that I had. Is there anything else that you want to add, or you think it's important that people know about this issue?
No, thanks for raising the issue. Love a lot of our drivers that are tuning in on this, and appreciate their support. And feel free to contact my office if there's further questions or follow-up or interest in outreach, and know that we'll be working on this throughout the rest of this year in 2024.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for your time. I certainly appreciate it.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate it.
That was Illinois State Representative Ryan Spain of Peoria talking about his bill, HB 4992, which would cap pain and suffering damages for lawsuits in the trucking industry at $2 million. You can keep up to date on that bill and similar bills in other states, as well as legislation on other trucking-related topics through the website landline.media. Just go to the News tab at the top of the page and scroll down to Daily News by State. There you can select any state to see coverage of all the legislation it has regarding trucking issues. Again, that's at the website landline.media. We'll be back in just a moment with more news and information. Please stay with us through a short commercial break. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Capital Reman, your leader in remanufactured diesel engines and components, is celebrating its 10th anniversary. Let us help you avoid costly downtime and repairs by visiting capitalreman.com today. Use code OOIDA10 to receive your member benefits.
Get the most power and performance out of your rig with Howe's Diesel Defender. It provides maximum lubricity and contains specialized IDX4 detergent to clean and prevent deposits and safely removes harmful water. Visit Howe'sProducts.com for more information.
Attention professional drivers, do you owe money to the IRS? Integrity Tax Relief Group frees drivers from IRS trouble. Call for help now, 855-976-4291. That's 855-976-4291.
Since you started, what you've loved about trucking is the freedom. Heading out on your favorite route, a good driving song, and thinking about truck insurance. Well, maybe not that last one. That's why we're here. At OOIDA, we have a full range of truck insurance products, expert advice, and great customer service, helping you get the right coverage for your operation. Go to OOIDA.com because your job is to drive. Our job is to help with everything else.
Landline Now, welcome back. If you're hauling freight and running your own business, you need to keep track of some basic facts and figures that can determine whether you succeed or fail. And that includes finding the freight and how much money you can make hauling it. Today, Landline Now's Ashley Blackford will bring us some of that information and get some insight as to why things are happening with the folks from Truckstop.com. Here's Ashley now with a report.
Thanks, Mark, and hello to Brent Hutto, who is joining me in studio. It is so wonderful to have you here.
It is so great to be here. And again, thank you so much for always getting my last name right. That is like a blessing to me. I appreciate it.
I'm surprised because to me it doesn't seem that difficult, but I'm sure, it's one of those last names that people.
I get all kinds of versions. The best one is Brent Hutto. So I get that.
There you go.
Believe it or not,
I don't even think I would correct people if they said that.
Sometimes I
just roll with it.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, that's great. All right. Well, it is wonderful to have you here.
Yeah.
Let's get to our topic. Current market conditions. What are things looking like?
I like to title my market conditions every single time with like music because that's a big deal. And so I got a great one this week, which is basically 38 specials. Hold on loosely, which is the market kind of continues to bounce back a little bit. It's kind of been like there's plenty of freight in the spot market for small carriers, and which is a wonderful thing. So you got lots of choices if you're a small carrier, and so. But I say hold on loosely to that because it's kind of ebbing back and forth because rates aren't great. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But the current market conditions are, we've seen some signs where you had more freight in the market over the last 7 to 8 weeks, which in the spot market actually means that that's a good trend. That means that the market has hit its bottom and it's beginning to move back out because freight volumes have been above normal, which is always a wonderful thing. I'll always look at 5-year averages because when you're looking at any indexed data of any kind of data, you want to make sure you look over the averages, not like what's going on today, because in the spot market, you never know. It kind of goes up and down. But it kind of keeps moving around. So the pressure or the way it feels to everybody is that it's above normal as far as the freight volumes are concerned. But rates are still a little bit of a challenge, and certainly that's part of inflation and everything else. And then fuel prices. Fuel prices have been modulating back and forth. It did go below $4 for the first time in quite a while, which is good. Now that doesn't have an effect till a few weeks down the road, but it's good that the fuel may be coming back down a bit. But that's always a really, we don't control that. Mm-hmm. That's a worldwide thing. And so, but just in general, the spot volumes kind of staying above normal is always a good indication of the health of a market. Because as long as you got opportunity, then truckers have opportunity. So that's a good thing.
All right.
Yeah, man.
What are some of the top regions and lanes from last week?
Yeah. Well, some of the top. Before I jump into that, I kind of forgot to talk about some of the big points about the data. So, I know I talked about the volume, the freight volumes. So, just look at the overall rates in the marketplace. So, the overall rate last week was 240. Well, last week it was 239. The week before that was 240. Then it was 239. That's 240. So it's kind of held stable. So hopefully we'll start to see an upturn more in that. That's really, it's not, by the way, everything that's going on inside of freight transportation is going to be controlled by the overall U.S. economy. It's not all the things that have gone on in trucking have worked their way out. We've returned back to normal. It's been normal for, 17, 18 months now. What I mean by normal is normal amount of freight volumes. Freight rates are kind of in a normal for a 5-year average period. Now that doesn't take into account inflation as we talked about in the fuel prices, but the idea that it reaches normal. So the reason this is important actually is that for every carrier out there is that this is a giant marketplace. It's a supply and demand marketplace. It always seeks its normal. In other words, as long as it goes back to normal, then you know the marketplace is healthy. If it doesn't and it goes way below normal, you know it's unhealthy. If it goes way above normal, which is really good for truckers, they make a lot more money, which we all enjoy that and we're all for that. But it can't stay there because if it stays way above normal, inflation comes in and creeps back in, which means all our dollars are worth less. So that's a big thing. But you were talking about lanes and stuff within the marketplace. So just to give you an idea, load availability, we talked about loads and how important those are. Kind of week over week, there wasn't a whole lot of change. What you saw most is that it ebbed down just a little bit. But just in general, year over year, the only region that's been struggling is the Midwest, which is kind of where we are today, right here at Grain Valley.
Yep.
I love to say Grain Valley. I don't say Kansas City. I say Grain Valley.
It's like a suburb.
Yeah.
So,
that's super cool. I just think it's caught from Alabama, so we got a lot of small towns in Alabama.
Embrace it.
That's right. You jump in. So really, most areas, the Mountain Central has not fared as well year over year, but it's like they've all kind of continued to go back and forth. But the big ones, West Coast is going to continue to grow because all the challenges with AB5 out in the West Coast, which we're all against AB5 in this industry. Boy, that's not something that anyone looks forward to because it limits freedom, and we're all for freedom and choice. But you'll see you've seen some increases. The big increases in the Southeast, believe it or not, and that's actually a good indication because a lot of the building materials that build homes and industry and those things come out of the Southeast. So when the Southeast starts coming back, then you see an overall push into the nation. From a rate standpoint, there's been not a whole lot of changes, up and down, 2%, 3%, but there hasn't been a whole lot of changes in rates, which has been, as I reflected, the rates have kind of been stable for over 14 months, which is a little bit of a challenge just because carriers in general need more plus rates. Some of the actual lanes that have been better than others are, as I'm looking at this thing, like van rates, Portland to Boise, that's where Truckstop's is home base is in Idaho. There was a big increase there of from 217 to 248, which is a meaningful increase, a 14% increase. And the reason I bring these up, Ashley, to carriers in the market is, look, there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of loads in the spot market every day. You need to make sure you know how to search for the loads in the regions that you're looking for and the lanes that you're looking for, so you understand where you can get the best rate. There's lots of good rates out there. I realize there's lots of hard rates, difficult rates, not the most profitable rates for maybe that person's or that trucker's operation. But you need to know how to look. So look in the lanes where things are moving. So that Portland to Boise was one of them. Houston to Little Rock was another one that went up quite a bit. That's in dry van and flatbed. You've got El Paso to Houston. That's an interstate. There's a lot of freight in Texas. Our two biggest markets in the spot market typically are Houston and Dallas. There's lots of freight in Texas. There's always lots of freight in Texas.
What are some important industry points owner-operators should be aware of?
Yeah, well, I think a couple things is that if they haven't heard about it, number one is that obviously everyone's aware of fraud. I mean, and that started in October of 2022, and we're in 2024. So if you hadn't been hit by it, you're probably gonna run into it. But if you just use first off, I encourage everybody. It's just like I talk to my kids. If it looks weird, it's probably weird. Just investigate a little more. Do a little more checking. Make sure that email address is the same one that you've talked to, that you've communicated to before. Make sure that the URL or the website address is the right website address. Make sure the phone number is the right phone number. Even if you look on the public website and say, oh, that matches, make a phone call. Do all those things. Because there's lots going on in the fraud thing. So one of the things that is going on with the FMCSA, and Truckstop is doing the same thing. Actually, we did it before the FMCSA, is we're building more security measures into accessing the data, which I know that's a pain in the butt. No one likes. I sure don't like it. I didn't like that I had to do my own identity verification when I rented a U-Haul for $14, but I had to because they want to protect your data. And you want your data protected, and every trucker deserves to have their data protected. They lose one load, and it could wreck them for 6 months, which is super bad. So just know that there's a lot of things coming. Multi-factor authentication. In other words, you have to not just put in your password. You have to put in another, like, we're going to email you a code. So which one do you want? Do you want a text? Do you want to email? That helps you. That's the security. The other thing is when I mentioned identity verification, that is super important on blocking out fraud, because if you can prove it's you by taking a picture of your license and then an actual picture on your phone to compare the license, it knocks out so much of the possible fraud. So for the carriers out there, I bring this up because it's a pain in the butt. We hear from carriers every day. I just heard from one yesterday. I was at this broker carrier conference. He's like, why do I have to do that? And I said, it helps it helps you. He goes, my information is not out there. It's not even available. I said, it doesn't matter. You have to protect the marketplace that everybody participates in.
Yeah.
And so that's really what's going on. So I just tell carriers, be patient right now and always double check everything.
Yeah. All right. Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Oh, so great. Look, I'm in the headquarters. I'm in the Mecca for carriers. This is great to be in Great Valley. Such a joy just to be with you, Ashley, and be here at OOIDA. Really appreciate what you guys do to protect carriers.
Glad to have you here. That was Brent Hutto with Truckstop. Mark, back to you.
Thanks, Ashley. That's our program for today. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
I'm a dad,
a son,
a husband,
wife,
I'm a writer,
photographer.
I farm.
I'm a veteran.
I love old cars, fishing,
my kids,
chrome.
And I am
a professional truck driver.
And together we are OOIDA.
OOIDA was founded by truckers to stand up and speak on behalf of truckers. We've done that by combining the individual voices of our members into a single, powerful voice. Protecting your interests, defending your rights.
Join us! Make your voice heard. Join OOIDA, the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association. Call 1-800-444-5791 or visit OOIDA.com.